They say that some secrets never die, that the dead can speak through the cold silence of an abandoned home. In 1922, a quiet family in rural Germany met a fate so horrific it would fuel nearly a century of speculation. Their remote farmhouse, isolated by distance and time, became the silent witness to a chilling mystery. Welcome to the Hinterkaifeck murders, one of the strangest and most unsettling unsolved crimes in history. By the end of this video, you'll discover the bizarre chain of events, a missing key, strange footprints in the snow, and an unsolved set of murders that left investigators speechless. But before we unravel the 5 most perplexing clues that could crack this case, ask yourself, could you sleep in a house where the killer lurked in your attic before striking? Hinterkaifeck was not a town, but rather the name given to a small homestead located between the Bavarian towns of Ingolstadt and Schrobenhausen in Germany. The family who lived there, Andreas Gruber, his wife Cecilia, their daughter Victoria Gabriel, and Victoria's 2 children, were known to keep to themselves. They weren't particularly popular in the village, but neighbors respected them for their hard work on the farm. In March 1922, life on the Hinterkaifeck homestead took a terrifying turn. Andreas Gruber complained to friends and neighbors about footprints in the snow that led from the woods to his attic but never left. He also mentioned hearing unsettling footsteps above his head at night, yet strangely, no one in the household alerted the police. Perhaps dismissing these signs as figments of imagination or pranks. Just days later, on March 31st, 1922, 6 people on the farm, including the family's new maid, were found bludgeoned to death with a mattock, a type of pickaxe. The crime scene evidence suggested that the killer or killers stayed in the house for several days, tending to livestock and helping themselves to food, before quietly disappearing into the night. The Gruber family dynamic was far from picture perfect. Andreas Gruber, often described as a strict patriarch, was rumored to have a tumultuous relationship with his daughter Victoria. Whispers circulated about potential incest. Victoria herself was a young widow. Her husband had supposedly died in World War I. She had 2 children, young Cecilia, named after Andreas's wife, and an infant son named Josef. A neighbor, Lorenz Schlittenbauer, had once been romantically involved with Victoria. He even acknowledged paternity of young Joseph at one point, but later retracted that claim. After the murders, local gossip often pointed fingers at Lorenz, or even at Andreas himself, as the twisted mastermind of an ill-fated scheme. But as the investigation wore on, confusion only deepened. To truly understand how baffling this case is, we have to look at 5 shocking clues that investigators uncovered. Each clue takes us one step closer to unraveling the truth, and to a revelation so disturbing, it will make you question everything you think you know about the Hinterkaifeck farm. But first, let's delve deeper into the gruesome details of that fateful night. On April 4th, 1922, 4 days after anyone had last seen or heard from the Gruber family, concerned neighbors went to check on them. The mail was piling up, and young Cecilia had been absent from school. What they found was a scene from a nightmare. In the barn, the bodies of Andreas, his wife, their daughter Victoria, and her daughter were discovered stacked on top of each other, partially covered in hay. All had suffered fatal blows to the head. Inside the farmhouse, the new maid, Maria, and Victoria's son Joseph were found slain in their beds. Blood was splattered across walls and floors, evidence of a brutal yet strangely methodical crime. Authorities were baffled. Some of the victims' injuries suggested multiple strikes, indicating a personal rage or a twisted sense of overkill. Yet the killer left behind money and valuables, so robbery seemed unlikely as a motive. Even more perplexing, neighbors reported seeing smoke from the chimney in the days after the murders, strongly indicating the killer stayed in the house, comfortable enough to stoke fires and eat meals. Clue number 1. Days before the murders, Andreas Gruber found footprints in the snow leading from the nearby woods to his attic. No footprints led back. He searched the property but found no intruder. This ominous discovery should have been a major red flag. Yet the family decided not to leave or call the police. Some say Andreas was too proud or stubborn to ask for help. Others suggest he suspected a family member or someone he knew. Could the killer have been living in the attic for days, maybe even weeks, planning the perfect time to strike? Clue number 2. One of the family's house keys went missing shortly before the murders. There was no sign of forced entry. Neighbors speculated it had been stolen by someone with intimate knowledge of the farm's layout. Andreas mentioned this missing key to a handful of people, but again, never notified authorities. In a remote area like Hinterkaifeck, a missing key could mean life or death, yet no one acted until it was too late. Could this missing key have been the reason the family suspected an intruder but felt too afraid or too ashamed to involve law enforcement? Clue number 3. Both Andreas and his wife Cecilia complained of strange sounds at night. Footsteps, creaks, and even muffled voices. The old attic was cluttered and dimly lit, offering plenty of nooks and crannies for someone to hide. Some locals theorized that a vagrant or a former enemy of Andreas had taken refuge there, waiting for the perfect moment to enact revenge. Others believed the entire family was too terrified to confront the stranger directly. Was it paranoia? Or did they sense a real threat that they couldn't quite prove? Clue number 4. The Gruber family was no stranger to scandal. Rumors of incest haunted Andreas and Victoria, creating a swirl of local gossip. Lorenz Schlittenbauer, their neighbor and Victoria's possible lover, might have had motives rooted in financial disputes or paternity conflicts. Local authorities once investigated Andreas for incest, but charges were dropped. Many people wondered if a past family secret or lingering grudge came back to claim deadly revenge. Could a deeply personal vendetta be the key to unmasking the real culprit? Clue number 5. Perhaps the most unnerving aspect of this case is the killer's seemingly calm demeanor after committing the murders. Footprints indicate they moved bodies around, fed the livestock, prepared meals, and stoked the fireplace. This person, or persons, was comfortable enough to linger for days, despite leaving a horrific crime scene in the barn and bedrooms. Why would they stay? Was it an attempt to cover tracks? Or simply pragmatic survival in a rural setting? This baffling behavior suggests a calculated, cold-blooded individual. Someone who didn't mind living among the dead. Investigators interviewed a long list of suspects, from Lorenz Schlittenbauer to disgruntled former maids. Over the years, amateur sleuths and professional detectives alike have proposed theories involving family revenge. Some believe that one of the victims was pregnant by a forbidden relationship, and the murders were meant to hush up the scandal. Local feuds. Did a neighbor or associate with a long-standing grudge finally snap? Deranged. Drifter. Could this be the work of a nomadic killer who stumbled onto the farm? Multiple perpetrators. The brutality and methodical cleanup suggest that more than one individual might have been involved, possibly an organized group with personal ties to the family. Despite extensive efforts, no one was ever convicted. In fact, official police files show the case was revisited multiple times over the decades. Most recently in the 1980s, when forensic experts tried new analysis techniques on surviving evidence. Yet each reinvestigation hit the same dead end. We've walked through 5 chilling clues that paint a picture of deception, scandal, and cold-blooded murder. Now, let's piece them together. 5. The murderer's calm, unhurried presence on the farm. 4. A family mired in scandal and possible incest. 3. Persistent noises in the attic, ignored for too long. 2. A missing house key that granted easy access to a locked home. 1. Footprints in the snow, leading in but never out. When you connect these dots, you see a pattern of someone who knew the Grubers, understood their habits, and possibly held a deep-seated grudge. Or perhaps it was a clever outsider who exploited the family's secrets and rural isolation. In the aftermath, the farm was eventually demolished, leaving behind an empty plot of land that whispers secrets into the cold Bavarian wind. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain unsolved, captivating the imagination of true crime enthusiasts for generations. Each discovered clue only leads to more questions, and each suspect emerges with just enough doubt to walk free. So, what do you think? Was this a crime fueled by personal hatred, a meticulously planned attack by someone close to the family? Or did a wandering killer simply vanish into the night, leaving a puzzle that even modern forensics can't crack? Join us next time as we continue our countdown of the most mind-boggling true crime mysteries in history. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment with your theories. Who knows, your insight might just shed new light on a century-old mystery.